Call the meeting to order. First order of business is to review the minutes from last meeting, which was April 18th. I did not have anything.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 18 minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have non-public?
Yes. I will make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
That's all we have, right?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda, discussion regarding ladies bathtub swimming hole. We've had this discussion a couple of times, and I think it's good to bring it up again. Speak up. All right.
Okay, well, I think our concern, we had reached a point, sort of the end of last summer in discussing the ladies' bath. And subsequently, a lot was happening. We had a new town manager. Everyone was very busy trying to fill in until you came here. And so, this discussion, justifiably so, I think, was put on the back burner. But now we're moving into summer again. I took a ride down to Loon. It looks like they're going to restrict access to the river again. So we're where we were last year. And I think the concern we have too is in our discussions last year, some commitments were made and even those were not fulfilled or fulfilled permanently. And we've been going through this. We had discussions back in the 1990s and we went through all the history. I went through the town records. Our attorney's been through a lot of records. And in the 1990s, late 1990s, there was a lot of discussion about who was responsible for the bath when the River Preservation Society decided they wanted to gift it to the town. And the town said they would accept it, but you never took ownership, not until 2014 for taxes, not in reality. It just kind of sat on the books as a tax burden. And that was probably, it was manageable at that time. But even then, some of the same complaints that we have today in the late 1990s were brought to the town. And the board at that time said that they would take care of everything, and they did for a while. And then, there was a lull like in the 2000s. And with the explosion of the internet and then the explosion of tourism in Lincoln, the bath became a problem again. So we met in 2017, we had some agreements and those kind of, the fulfillment of all those agreements kind of over time just gradually go away again. And so we met again this last summer to say, okay, what can we do? The issue is, I don't know if you've explained to Karina, it's a public bathing, town-owned bathing spot in the middle of a residential community. Has limited parking.
I'm sorry. They built a condo development around a public swimming hole. Swimming hole was there far before the condo development was. Okay.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. The condo development was built around the swimming hole, but it wasn't a public swimming hole at the time. The people who deeded it wanted it to be open to the residents of Lincoln and Woodstock. That was the agreement in the beginning. And the River Preservation Society took responsibility for the bath. And they maintained it, well, they're nonprofit, so I don't even think they were paying taxes on it, but they were maintaining it. And then they decided it became too much for them, and that's when they said they wanted the town to take it over. And I think it was voted at a town meeting, but it never really became, I have that, it was voted.
Yeah, I'm
in.
not sure.
no,
I'm trying to
It
remember.
was
I love
voted
to
in
hear-
at a
yeah.
town
Okay.
meeting.
We got a
But
couple
the
more
town
minutes,
never really took responsibility for it. So again, over the years, the number of people who come to that spot and disrespect it and at times, you know, it becomes a problem for a residential community. And there were also other questions that were brought up as our attorney did his research. Not the least of which is the town never obtained an easement over our West Branch Road to get to the bath. And even when they took possession for taxes in 2014, that discussion was never had with Riverfront, you know. The only easement we have on our property is for people from Lincoln Station to come over and access the bath through our property, because we were originally part of the Lincoln Station condominium community.
Is that the Penn something trail? Because I
Penn
did
Stock Trail.
Penn Stock
It's
Trail.
not a trail, no, it's
No.
just, it's a path that comes over down by Lincoln that they have access to. They can come, they can cross our roads, they can cross West Branch Road and go to the bath. So there was that question. There was also another question, and I don't know where the attorneys got on this, because actually the question of the easement, and I think this other question was supposed to go to the town attorney. There was another question that in our deed, it says if the River Society ever defaulted, it was supposed to be returned to Lincoln Station, to the Lincoln Station Condominium Association, which at that time was Lincoln Station and Riverfront, but that never happened either. So I'm wondering were all these deeds looked at when the town deeded it in 2014. But we're willing to be reasonable and work with the town, but we have to control what goes on at the bath. We've had problems with parking. We have had to have our own security to manage parking. We have signage. We went to a placards, we issue placards so we know which cars are ours. But still, people come in, and right now, like last year, there was a commitment to put no parking signs in the bath. And we had even suggested a sign, which would have been very clear to people. If you're not parked in these 16 spaces, you can be towed if either by the town, if you're around the circle, or by us. And we have signage that says we can tow too. But people, what happened was we had these little paper signs on sticks that were put up around the circle. They're long gone. They were supposed to take down the COVID signs and say no open fires, no overnight, no overnight parking, no camping. We had fires there last summer. We know we can call Ron if people are having fires down there, but if you don't have a sign that says no open fires, that we did find no open fires, and it was embedded in the COVID signs, which never came down, but no one's going to read all that verbiage on the COVID signs. I think Butch actually reported that the COVID signs that came down, they're still there today, the COVID signs, So the commitments, even the little commitments that were made last summer no one's followed through. And so we're saying, okay, we want to manage, we know the bath is a beautiful spot, particularly to Lincoln and Woodstock residents that have grown up with the bath. We want to work with the town to manage it. But you've got to take responsibility for cleaning it. Our residents go down and clean it up, but it's a mess. Even though the signage is there that says no glass, there's broken glass down in the bath. There's all kinds of stuff left behind down in the bath. If you go there on any day in the summer, you very seldom see a New Hampshire car back there. They're all out-of-state cars. They're all Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, you know. So other residents, and I know residents that don't go there because it is so busy. It just is, it's not pleasant anymore. And so one of the things we talked about last summer was restricting access and just saying, okay, just we'll go back to the original premise, which was Lincoln and Woodstock residents only, you know, and manage maybe through a sticker system, like even the dump sticker, you know, so you would know that these people can legitimately park there and be down in the back. We know we'll never be able to control all the foot traffic. There are some locations where we can control it with no trespassing signs. But, you know, in general, we know that you can't always control foot traffic, but we can control the automobile traffic that comes in there, which hopefully will diminish some of the numbers of people that come in there because they can't bring all their stuff with them, you know. But we'd like to work something out that is reasonable for both the town and for Riverfront and is good for the Lincoln and Woodstock residents. Now, I know one thing we had talked about is you're going to open up Old Toll. And that would take some of the pressure off of the ladies' bath, and that may be helpful. I mean, and that would certainly maybe ease what you have to do to manage everything over there. But then when I read that we haven't even started to do anything on Old Toll yet, is that even a possibility this summer? Because I know last year we talked about you would promote Old Toll on the website. Old Toll is owned by the town. There'll be parking down there, plenty of room for people to spread out. It's not just this little isolated piece of property that is in the middle of a residential community. So we're hoping using a combination of some of these things, either restricting access to Lincoln Woodstock people like it was originally, and or promoting Old Toll, moving people to a different location. And again, I think one of the biggest things that happened, it happened during COVID, but it doesn't look like it's changing, is Loon is no longer allowing access to the river. So that just pushes everyone downriver. And that's what I think really increased the population in the bath. So that's kind of where we're at. How do we work together for an agreeable solution for all so that, you know, we're not struggling, you're not struggling, and the people of Woodstock and Lincoln are their needs are met, the people who live here and have used that swimming hole all their lives. Just, it'll be a more pleasant place for them to go. So that's kind of where we're at. I think I hit it.
Well, thank you for that summary. That was good catching up of 2 years, or at least a
Yeah.
couple of years of meetings. You know, I would like to work as a board here to figure this out, take action, follow up, and we're not going to solve it all, but I think we could take a giant step forward in solving this if we focus on the idea that you're willing to cooperate. You know, I know that there's issues with deeds and easements and history, but if we start looking forward instead of backwards, with two parties who want to work together, I think we're going to get more accomplished.
Right.
I see the 4 issues that face us are signage, which I thought we had settled last year, but the COVID signs are still up, the new signs aren't. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about parking. Let's talk about, I know you mentioned police and security. Let's see what we can realistically do about that. And then I think the big issue is who we allow to access the parking area. I don't think we, as you just said, I don't think we can restrict if someone walks in there.
No.
The river is public. But we can certainly restrict who parks in our town parking lot. There's other towns in New Hampshire I know that do that. I know when I go to my brother's house, you know, he can park in the Sandwich Town Beach and I can't.
Well, same in Bristol.
Okay, I mean, there's other towns that do that. So I know that we won't be the only one, the only town that has something like that. So as far as signage goes, didn't we work out the exact language that we wanted and?
We actually provided language, or I did,
Nate's on the call.
Butch.
Yeah, I asked
Right.
Nate to be on this evening. He's on the call right now. The COVID signs will, we'll take those down. That's an easy
Yeah.
fix. It probably should have been done prior to. I did talk to Nate about the signage, and Nate did say that he remembers that there was, discussion about the language that was gonna be on the sign and coming to an agreement about the languages. And then he said he remembers making the order, and then he said, unfortunately, it just slipped through the cracks. He was, had some other obligations last summer, and the signage fell through. We don't know if they were ordered or they were never picked up, but we could figure out signage as long as we have an agreement on the language. Signage is an easy fix. That's something that can be done relatively simply.
And we had suggested signage that just as you come in, right now, there's a no parking sign. It is metal and it's right there in their face. But you don't know what the no parking applies to. So we had suggested that sign be replaced with notice, parking for the ladies' bath is limited to the 16 line spaces in the circle. All other parking is subject to towing at the owner's expense. And that covers the police, if they're around the circle, because that's a fire hazard, that's a fire lane.
Mhm.
And it also we're gonna have our own signage, but it also covers us. It was just a simple sign, and you would put it just as you drive in, and it would also be on where the COVID signs on the post that goes down. So if it didn't catch your attention when you were driving in and you parked elsewhere, you would see it the minute you started down the path to the bath. That was our suggestion. I don't know if that's what we wound up with, but that's what you and I had talked about.
Sure. My concern with going with the signage like that is if we're gonna have a conversation about who can use the parking, we probably want to incorporate that into
the
the
signage.
There's
signage.
actually a big sign right there, because when the town took over the bath, we actually found down in our basement, in our clubhouse, we have the big old wooden sign. It's the historic sign. It says that the River Society, but it says this is for the enjoyment of Lincoln and Woodstock residents only. So it specifies right on the sign. Now, you're right, if there's gonna be a sticker system, you'd have to have that incorporated into the sign too. Yeah, so this would not be sufficient, depending on how you want to manage it.
Before we decide on that, then we need to include Chad in the conversation. I remember when he was here last time, it was as simple as plates on a car.
What, the parking?
Yeah. It takes them, 2 minutes to run a plate. And if it, New Hampshire plate comes back with a national address, well, then we could probably assume they're not Lincoln or Woodstock residents unless they're borrowing a car.
I know, but the enforcement of that, what's Chad gonna have to send an officer down every 45 minutes to run all 16 plates?
And we can't help you, we can't help
Right,
you
yeah,
there.
no,
I
right.
mean,
Yes. The enforcement of it is a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, because, all right, we do a sticker, but I got in an accident and I've got a rental car for 2 weeks. I have a dump sticker on my rental car. They tow my rental car, even though I live here. The enforcement of it was an absolute nightmare as far as Chad was concerned. No matter how you did plate running or stickers or anything else, is a nightmare.
Well, the other thing too is that people that own up here, maybe coming from New York or, Kansas or wherever, and they've got a Kansas plate, a New York plate. I've seen it. And yet they're a homeowner here. They're a resident as far as paying taxes. I don't know if you're talking, Cindy, only full-time residents or what have you. And like OJ said, somebody's child or relative comes up and are they going to be allowed to enjoy the fruits of the river in that case?
use their stickered car. And we had this discussion that was one of the discussions last fall. Do you allow just full-time residents, in which case, dump sticker would be appropriate? Or do you allow, we talked about
No, full-time
renters.
residents, no, that's not true. Dump stickers are on people that
That's true.
own
That's
here.
true. That
Not
own
property
here.
owners. They're given the
Yeah.
right to use the
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
But the other thing too, as Ron knows, down at the landing, they actually put up no parking signs to an area that the public had access to Loon's Cross Country Trails and along Serendipity and Black Mountain Trail there. And they put up signs because the new owner came in and said, you don't have a legal right except for this one area. And I think there's 4 signs there now. Am I correct, Ron?
Yep.
And they say parking for the trail only. Cars have been towed when they're outside that. Am I correct, Ron?
I don't know about towed, but ticketed.
Well, I know they've been towed and
Yeah, they-
ticketed.
Okay.
So it does happen when, people are aware that there is an enforcement of a statute or a policy.
I mean, if it were, I think you have to decide, is it just residents or, property owners? That's something that has to be decided.
Well, it's a big difference. between
Yeah,
the
there's a
two.
big difference. There's a much bigger population, but still not as big as when it's just open to the public. We get, the hotels send people over there, and that's what really blows the population up. So
You have a stairway down the embankment, so people from in seasons Public Brook can just cross and walk.
oh, yeah, well, that one we can control with a no trespassing sign, because what they're doing is they just cut across, they cut across our hill in front of 23, and they've worn a path in the hill.
I've seen that.
I mean, that's, it's crazy. But those you can control, those walk-throughs, all we want them to do, we don't care, you're gonna walk in, but walk down the road and come up the road. Don't, because we're planning to do a lot of plantings there, and if they're getting used to just cutting through whatever we're doing, because we have to put some kind of a shield for that building from Route 112. So we're planning on doing plantings there. We don't want them to be continuing to walk through that area. But that we can control. But yeah, you have to decide what is the extent of this. And as far as stickers, I mean, we have people at Riverfront who can be eyes too. If there are people that don't have stickers on their cars, we can just call, we can work with the town. We can work with the town.
Cindy, the other thing you brought up about the old hole too, that's not forgotten. The town manager has submitted to DOT a potential aspect of a grant to do
Right.
the work down there. So that's still on the table. It's not that we've forgotten about it. In fact, that was done, 2 or 3 weeks ago now. So there is some federal dollars available, but it filters through the state and then to the local communities. So we're looking into that to, like you said, take some of the burden off the ladies' bathtub.
Now, will that be open this summer?
If we get the money, unless you want to pony up.
Yeah.
We had talked about, even if we don't
GoFundMe.
even if we don't get a grant.
Yeah.
We had talked about getting something
Right.
done. It may not be to the extent we could do with a grant, but it would still be access.
Sure, yeah. I think the idea of the grant is that if we want to make this location that has a nice parking area and interpretive signage to really direct people to the site, we might as well try to get some
Mhm.
funding for it to make it a more
Right,
established
right,
spot. I think no matter what, whether we get the grant or we don't,
We'll have access.
we'll have access to it. We're
Just
gonna clear
what
it. It just
extent.
depends on
Yeah.
to what extent that is.
And it may not be done on the first hot day that people travel to the river also.
No,
Yeah.
The old hole.
it's more likely that it won't be done until we're through this,
Through the season.
through the season.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to be unrealistic in saying June 1, we're gonna have
Right.
a hole, right?
With that being said, Old Hole is still accessible just the way it is. It
Sure.
has been for decades.
And even when it wasn't, we still got there.
Right. Go ahead.
Just a question, you talk about the old hole, is that near the levee? that's been
Yes, the
repaired?
levy.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we go there quite often too, and we appreciate the police officers coming through every once in a while, because we do have a tendency to have large parties sometimes with younger people and they bring glass like this, and they should be bringing glass, but there is no signage telling them that stuff,
Yeah.
so. I didn't know if that's what you were referring to, the old hole, was that the lucky part of it?
It is.
I don't know a
And-
single kid that grew up in this town that hasn't drank a beer at the old hole.
Exactly.
Not one.
Cans would be more appropriate.
That's the thing, is that they sell beer in
We'll put that on the
cans.
sign, aluminum
Right.
cans
Cans
only,
only.
Yes.
returnable, 5
Just
cents,
no glass.
no glass.
No glass,
But
there you
it doesn't
go.
We
work.
don't want to
There you go.
encourage.
No
You
glass.
wouldn't believe the beer bottles
I know.
that we pull out of.
Oh,
these
I believe,
Yeah, I mean,
I've cleaned up at the old hole a
I've
lot.
seen them, you know, at Old Hole, they
I've actually got a scar on the bottom of my foot. from
leave,
the-
yeah,
well,
leave
the
them
old
alone.
hole when
And,
I
and that was
15.
one other thing too, was maintenance, remove trash removal and, helping us out with that cleaning, whether it's the Boy Scouts or, there's something you can arrange to have people help clean up that area, because sometimes when COVID, it was so bad, our people, normally they'll help when they're down there, but during COVID, it was so bad, they wouldn't even go down there.
yeah, that was a
Disaster.
crazy summer.
Yeah, and
Every-
Lincoln
Yeah,
was,
COVID
yeah.
summer,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I don't care where you were, we cannot compare anything to that.
Yeah.
Because it was just out of control everywhere.
But
Everywhere,
it's
right.
still pretty bad. I
Everywhere.
mean, I think with the ladies' bath, it looks, because it's such a small area, it doesn't take a lot of people just leaving their junk down there, their trash. And I mean, and there are signs that say carry in, carry out, but I swear people that don't come from here or don't hike, don't understand what that means. It's just, it's hard.
Well, I'd like to throw out a proposal that we institute and I think the dump stickers are perfect, that you need a dump sticker to park there. And dump stickers are given to anyone who lives in town, whether they own or rent, whatever, they live in town, and I'm talking Lincoln and Woodstock.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or they own property in Lincoln.
Or Woodstock. Dump stickers are available to both towns.
And if they have a dump sticker, they can park there. Now, enforcement, no matter what we do, enforcement is gonna be a nightmare,
100%.
okay? Now, if you have signage up there that says you need a sticker to park there, and you pull in without a sticker, and you see that there's, 8 other cars and they all have stickers, you are much less likely to park there,
Right.
okay? So it's not a
Or you
matter,
assume
it's
the
not a
risk of
matter
getting a
of,
ticket.
right, it's not a matter of enforcing it as much as weeding out 90% of the people that are just tourists traveling through town.
I don't
And-
think that's gonna, that isn't, right, we've never towed a car from ladies. No,
And
in the
let's,
past,
let's
10
hope that
years, we've been
90% of the
ladies.
people who don't have stickers won't park there because of the signage. So towing is, to me, towing isn't the big issue.
no, so why are we addressing the parking if that's not even the issue?
No, the parking
The
is
issue
the
is the
issue.
parking
parking
is
is
the
the
issue.
parking, and, but we've never towed a car from there. In 10 years, there hasn't been a car towed from ladies, unless you've called
Yeah, but-
somebody else from out of town.
But
I-
there's
I
been
know,
parking
there's gonna-
issues there with 25 cars parked in the
Yeah.
16 spaces on the lawns, on the circle.
They used to
Fire
park
lane.
down our roads and it was, some weekends it would be uncontrollable.
Again,
They would
COVID.
park on, one seat,
You
parked
can't
on
compare
both
to
sides
COVID.
of the road. We don't even have a fire lane through there,
Yeah.
It's gotten much better. I mean, we put our signage up. We now have permits. We can easily tell which cars are ours and which cars are not, probably not ours. But I think just restricting it to Lincoln and Woodstock owners, property owners, would take us a big step forward in controlling that, and using the dump sticker. And I think if you put that on the sign, Lincoln and Woodstock, you have to have a dump sticker, a dump sticker on your car to park
Solid
here.
waste, yeah.
It's gonna go, once we put up our towing signs last summer, we don't have those strings of cars going up and down the side of the road anymore, that we have to go and physically, what we would do, and I think a couple of times the police did, went down into the bath to tell people, if you're parked on the side of the road, you gotta move it prior to towing.
But that was 2020. I mean, in 2020, there was cars parked everywhere for everything, and there was a mess everywhere for everything.
They were parked
So-
on the tank.
They were, it didn't
Yeah,
matter. I mean,
Camden and Thornton
you're
had the same
comparing a lot
issue,
of this
but-
to 2020
No,
when it was
no.
just,
Tammy, before that, I have pictures, those cars, down West Branch, they will be, maybe not up the other end of West Branch, between West Branch and Building 23. They would be parked down both sides of the road from the Bath down to Building 45 and in the 45 lots,
So,
you know?
right.
And that was before COVID. So when COVID came, then they started parking on the Kank and down the other end of our complex.
Everywhere,
Everywhere,
there's no
you know.
comparison to that.
So it would be a big help if we could restrict the parking. That would be very, very helpful. But again, keep it, and I think it would be much better for the residents of Lincoln and Woodstock, because now it would become yours, you know, and it's such a small place that, you know, you want the residents to be able to enjoy it, you
Well,
know.
the only thing that will become ours is the parking, right? Because I read through some of the correspondence from Peter Malia when this was brought up last year, and Peter had said that the only thing you truly can restrict is the
It's the
parking.
parking,
Correct.
right, and
That's correct.
you can't restrict foot
Foot
traffic.
traffic, right.
And we couldn't
And
either.
we have to be careful too. If we do say that residents or taxpayers or whatever are allowed to park there, and I wreck my car and have a rental car and you tow it, town of Lincoln's paying that tow bill, not me, by law.
Do they give out?
Again, you're talking about the 1/10 of
Yeah,
1%.
That is
Let's
still gonna
focus on,
happen.
you can
You
solve
can't do
90% of this
what-ifs,
problem, we have solved the problem.
I know, I
Well,
just,
and
I can't support restricting access to the river. I just can't support it. I don't care how it
Jim,
is.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think it ought to be permanent residents only. I'm just gonna throw some numbers out there. Permanent residents, you're probably dealing with 500 cars. I bet you got 2,000 cars with dump stickers on it.
Yeah, easily, probably.
So, you know, you're gonna control 500 cars, or you're gonna control 2,000 cars? I mean, just because they're a taxpayer doesn't mean they're a resident. I think it's full-time resident only.
How do you differentiate? Chip?
I think this is a move in the right, I don't disagree with you, but I think this is a move in the right direction. I think, you know, there may be,
Taxpayers, you're still gonna get a ton of vehicles down there.
but, well, we'll only have 16, because there's limited parking. But I mean, if you have 500 permanent residents and 2,000 taxpayers, let's say, okay? If they look at all the people in all the hotels and the Airbnbs around here, there's probably 5,000 or 7,000 cars on any weekend. So I think what I'm saying, it's a move in the right direction. You know, you're limiting the possible number of cars that may come down there in a summer, and thereby limiting some of the people. You can't control the foot traffic, because we have to be open to Lincoln residents, Lincoln Station residents anyway. That's in our deed, you know, so they can walk over. And the Brook people do. We're just trying to divert them to use the road. But, you know, but it's, you know, we're just trying to control the traffic. That's all. And if you control the number of cars, you by default also control the numbers of people that, you know, that go down there.
And that's a good point. No matter who we allow in there, we're restricting it to 16 people can
Right.
park there.
Right,
After that, it doesn't matter if you're a resident, taxpayer, the town manager, you can't park there.
right.
So if all we have is 16 precious parking spaces, I don't see why we wouldn't want to restrict those to the people who support this town.
Right,
And in my opinion, that's the residents and the taxpayers. It's just awful hard in my mind to take 75% of our tax money comes from people who own property here but don't live here full time. And many of those people aren't ever gonna go there. You know,
right, right.
they come up in the winter, they rent it out, it's an Airbnb unit, you know, it's in a rental pool. So that owner is down in Massachusetts for, you know, the whole summer. So they're not gonna use it. You know, I just think that we are gonna limit who goes there, because it's 16 spaces. Let's figure out the best way to do it. I also think that the people who have invested money in this town or themselves in this town by either living here or owning property here are gonna take better care of the place. They're not gonna leave as much trash. Now, will there be issues with people without stickers parking there? Yep. Will there be people who leave trash there? Yep. We're not gonna completely solve this problem, but again, if we can take 90% of this away, I think we'll all be happy.
I think that would be definitely a step in the right direction, right?
Well, what's the start? I mean, we're talking now dump stickers, yay, nay. I own a motorcycle. Do I get a dump sticker for my motorcycle if I want to park down
Yeah, if
there?
you want to go to ladies on it, you'll have to.
Yeah, I would not call it a dump sticker anymore. I'd say it's a
Solid waste facility.
Oh,
or it's a
town.
town
sticker.
use sticker.
Town use sticker.
Town use
Yeah.
sticker. And what do you use? You can use a solid waste facility and you can park a lady's bathtub.
oh, okay.
All for nothing, Jack.
Not for nothing, I pay taxes, so
Oh, that
there's
is
gotta
good.
be something coming back.
Okay,
Was that?
Paul had
Oh,
his
Paul,
hand up.
sorry, go ahead.
You're muted, Paul.
Thank you, but I agree with what you're saying. I remember this conversation well last year, but I have to just ask you a question. Where are all of these other people who are staying in hotels and who are not taxpayers? Where are they gonna find places to access the river? If you take a ride around, as I did last year after all this started, you will find numerous signs at every, I don't know what you want to call them, hotel, condo development down along the river that says no river access, no river access. You know, Loon's closed theirs off. I think if you're talking about using the old hole, those people down there are going to get, if you put everybody down there, then it's going to become a problem down there. They're going to find ways to
Yeah.
influx that and just create problems with that as well. So, I mean, I think you got to think about the bigger problem here is that where are you going to recommend that all of these people go to? Because if all you're doing is
Cascade Park.
Whale's tail.
if all you're doing is restricting them, then they're going to find their own ways and it's going to create a mess. So, I mean, that's the only problem. That's how we kind of got where we are with everything else there. I mean, everything's starting to get restricted by use. I mean, and that's where the real problem is. And I think, you know, the people who want to use the river, truly most of the locals, people probably don't go down there that much. You know, because they realize that it gets used by, there's so many out of towners that come there and they don't want to deal with it. So they go to the other places that they know of on the river, you know, but truly the influx of the problem is the people who, I mean, and the hotel that's right across the street, they pay a huge amount of taxes to the town. So, I mean, at one time the town promoted all the uses of all of these swimming holes to all these people. And now we're saying, oh, well, wait a minute, you got to be a taxpayer. So, I mean, I think there's a bigger thing here, and I'm not trying to make this hard for you, but I mean, I think you really got to think about it, because if all you're doing is restricting it, it's just going to create problems somewhere else. And you can take a look at what it did to Woodstock when they started restricting some of their access. I mean, it just made it was a mess. I mean, there's got to be a better way. I think we need to open up more instead of restrict it. You know, disperse the people with a greater amount of area. I think the town needs to talk to Loon and really try to get that opened up. That would really help. A huge amount of people use that place. I mean, and if you have Loon and the old swimming hole and the ladies' bathtub and boys' bathtub, I mean, it really spreads it all out. It's like everything else. You know? A small ski area, you can only ski so many people, but when you open it up and open more terrain and you disperse them, and it's not so much problem. So, I mean, to me, the solution is dilution, to get them to spread out rather than to try and restrict them from where they are.
Is it relatively new that Loon,
Yeah, since COVID.
since COVID?
That parking lot on this side used to be open and
Mhm.
people would picnic there and swim there.
And how are they enforcing it? By towing, I
No,
imagine?
no, they
Barrier-
put
barriers.
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 They have Jersey barriers up and.
Yeah.
I actually called Brian, the new GM there,
Yeah.
about 2.5 to 3 weeks ago. I think I mentioned that. And they said they're not going to allow the public access to the river.
Then
through
they
their
end up
property.
bending.
And do they have a reason? I mean, because of the same issues we're discussing
I think
today, I mean.
what they're saying, what Brian told me was a liability.
Yeah,
Liability.
that's what I keep
Liability.
being told, liability, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only for the parking, but the people going down the bank. to
Going down the
river
bank on their
itself.
property, get
Yeah.
hurt.
Sure.
And Paul, I appreciate what you're saying. I think the issue in the back is it's so small. I mean, it doesn't have the capacity that some of the other swimming areas. And that's how it just.
And I agree. I just think that the problem is by restricting it more to only a certain amount of people who probably aren't using it anyway, or, you know, you really don't know, but you still, you're restricting more of the access to the river. And like I said, I invite you to drive around and see all the signs that say no access to the river. I mean, it's amazing. We have all of this property that's been developed along the river now has pretty much restricted a lot of the access to the river. I went around, took pictures of them one day. I said, wow, I never really realized it, because it was amazing.
It is
It's amazing.
crazy that you start restricting things, and this is where you get nervous. I get mad because we used to be able to go to Gravity. I almost got shot last time I went to Gravity. I mean, literally saw the gun, almost got shot. Boys bathtub, you can't get there anymore either without getting yelled at or arrested. Indian Leap, you can't even jump off Indian Leap anymore. I mean, you can't, you know, a few years from now, my grandkids will be able to go to Ladies. It's just,
But we're not, what we're saying is, we want to keep it open to the people, to Lincoln and Woodstock.
yeah, but then you have all these other hidden, well, you know, you really don't have access, but, you know, it's.
Well-
you know,
No,
we don't-
I think our request is reasonable.
I
We're not
can't-
saying, we're
I
not
can't
saying
support
close it.
limiting access to the river anywhere for any reason unless it's literally.
And
We are
Where your
gonna,
children
we are going to limit access to the river, period.
Yeah, I
We
hear
need
you.
to choose.
I don't like it, and I won't support it, but I hear you.
Who parks in those 16 spaces? Okay, we're limiting it to 16.
Absolutely.
So the limit is there. Now we need to discuss how we want that limit to be enforced or enacted. Paul, you have a good point.
Yeah, but I just want to make one other comment if I
Sure,
could.
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Weeks ago, I discussed with you guys the ability to, where that moose sign is, to try and really look at that. If Loon doesn't want to open up their parking lot, if the town would just open that up and make that bigger, it would allow for more parking there. They could walk to the old hole. To the ladies' bathtub, they could walk to the old hole, they could walk to the ladies' bathtub, they could walk upstream to Loon Mountain. It's not their river. They could walk upstream and have access down through there as well to the river, because the town owns that. So it's not, I think that would, if Loon's gonna not allow people to use that parking lot, then maybe the town should look at that as a way to create more access to that river instead of restrict it. And I think that there's enough room that the town owns to be able to do that. So I think that might help you.
Well,
Can we
Well,
ask,
that issue was brought up, after you brought it up, I talked with Karina about this. And she was going to include that if we get to the next step as far as the grant go. Because the grant was up to what, $250,000, I believe, was it?
Right, yeah, 250, yeah.
Up to $250,000. So consequently, we would expand it to that. And I took a look down there, and there is power lines that run down there. So I'm assuming, obviously, that there's a right of way or an easement by New Hampshire Co-op or one of the power companies down there.
the biggest.
I believe the town-
It's a good idea.
Town owns that land along there. I mean, like I said, take a look at Fort Bridge. Remember, it used to be a little small, I don't know if all of you remember, there used to be a little small parking lot up there.
Yeah,
Now there's the big parking lot and it's full. Well, what they saw was, the smaller parking lot got too full, let's make a bigger one. And I think if the town took a look at that and kind of said, look, that there's a lot of restriction going on here about access to the river. If we could create another one that would allow more access, and then if ladies' bathtub got full, they could park up there where the moose sign is, for lack of a better way to call it. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, we're
I
in
think
favor of that, and like Jack said, we've talked about that, is if we get this $250,000 grant, we're gonna focus on Old Hole, because that's ready to go. But then if, again, we're gonna need state approval for
Another curb cut.
driveway curb cut. I know that there's a huge curb cut, there's no curb, first of all, but there's a huge pull-off area.
Right.
Right,
But,
driveway permit.
Driveway
we'll need their permission to do that. And
Well,
most-
certainly, I think that they might look favorably on it if it's gonna help the town and help the tourism in the town too. I mean, that,
I would,
we're a tourist industry, you know, I mean, it's maybe White Mountain Attractions or what are the other two associations that, Chamber of Commerce or some of those, White Mountain Chamber of Commerce, maybe some of those could help out with some of that because it would help tourism too. I mean, that's really what we're all talking about here is that the tourists that come into, the overflow of tourists that come into the community want to have access to the river, and there's really not a whole lot of bunch of different places for them to do that. So if we can spread them out and make something a little better, then it might help.
And I think you spoke about it, and it is true. I think Paul mentioned it, and you talked about it last summer. Once you have access to the river, you can access the whole river.
Mhm.
The Pemmy is a public river. So to the high water mark, it belongs to the public. So you can walk up to the ladies' bath from Old Hall, you know, I mean, you have the whole river once you have an access point. But it's when you only have a few, and Paul is right, we need to expand those reasonably rather than having it just be ladies' bath and Old Hole or something, you know, when we've gotta service our town, people who live here and pay taxes and try to make, that's our point, because ladies' bath is so small. It would be great if that could be accessible to everybody in town, like everyone remembers. But also provide access points, you know, other access points. I think that sounds like a good plan.
Thank you.
thanks, we're certainly taking that step with the Old Hole. You know, if we get that grant, we can put in a big parking area with signage and a decent path, but again, that's not gonna be this summer. But in the meantime, people can still park over at South Mountain and walk up the J.E. Henry Trail.
No, they can't.
Why?
We get calls to tow cars there all the time. And the J. Henry Trail has a no trespassing sign on it. If you go over South Mountain Bridge, that trail right there.
Yeah.
It's got a no trespassing sign on there, or no admittance or something, there's a gate.
On the J.E. Henry
I don't
Trail?
think so.
When you go over the bridge, there's a trail on the left.
Yeah.
That's J.E. Henry, yeah.
Yeah,
Last time I was over there, well, it had to have been, it was the end of last summer. Wasn't right now, but we went to tow a car that was parked over there
wait, in
in the southbound parking lot right there.
I didn't, I don't want to go further discussion until we find out what the facts are, because I don't
Yes.
believe any of that is accurate. There's cars parked over there all the time. I run that trail. I don't think it's closed off. Anyway,
We found out how many we towed last year.
let's go back to ladies bathtub. We have 16
16
spaces.
spaces.
Who do we want to park there? First come, first serve, New York, Kentucky, doesn't matter? Or do we want to limit it to taxpayers and residents?
Taxpayers and residents would be our choice, because that helps to alleviate some of the numbers of people that come. And I think people who live in this town or are residents of this town are much more appreciative of the river, and I think you're right. I think they would have, like our owners, they would have more of a tendency to want to keep it clean, keep it nice, protect it.
And I think by doing that, we're gonna maintain a good relationship with the residential
Towed 5 cars there last summer.
out of South Peak.
Yes,
Were they legally parked, like not up against the bridge or not in the
Correct.
fire lanes or nothing like that?
One night.
bottom one. Yes. Yeah.
What's that? Oh, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, so the sign that's out there at the riverfront that I took a picture of last year said, parking for unit owners and guests only, valid parking permit must be displayed. Violators will be towed at owner's expense. It didn't say anything about people, anyone else that could go in there. I can send you,
That's our sign. That's not
Right.
anything to do with the bath. Yeah.
right, but it's limiting access to just owners and guests. It's not saying anyone else can go in there. That's my point.
Okay, and we're looking at redoing the signs. It's gonna say you need a town use sticker or whatever we're gonna call it to park there. That's my suggestion anyway. That's what we're discussing right now.
And if we need to modify, but our sign pertains to
I just sent it.
in our locations. Parking in our locations, in our parking lot.
In your private parking lots in front of the
Along
units.
the road and in our parking
Yeah.
lots.
But what Paul's saying is, somebody sees that sign, they're saying, I can't even go in to a lady's bathroom.
Hasn't bothered them.
No, but I'm
They
just
don't
saying,
even
Cindy,
read it.
that's, it's kind of redundant. What, one is on the hand prohibiting anybody but owners and guests. And then, we're saying with a sticker, you don't have to be an owner or a guest, you can.
No, what he's saying is we had to put a sign up,
Well, I'm aware of it.
right, because we had people parking on both sides of
Right.
it. We had them. And we went to a permit system, hang tags
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And to park in our parking lots, okay, not, owners can't even park along the road, that's a fire lane, violation. But to park in our parking lots, you have to have a green tag or whatever color the year is, does not pertain to the ladies' bath.
No. I'm
Because
aware of that.
That's owned by the town. And it hasn't
And-
stopped anyone from going to the bath, for sure.
And when we hand
Any
out
other?
these stickers, people are gonna become aware that they can park in that lot only.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't see an issue with that.
Well, I also
Yeah.
think we should probably revisit what signage is currently down there. I mean, the more signs you just pile on, the less likely someone's gonna read. So
Right.
unless we're condensing them all into one larger sign or something, I mean, there's no point in putting a bunch of little signs up there because no one's gonna read them. I mean, people don't read signs already, so.
Well, my thought is that in the parking area, I don't know, in the circle, wherever makes the most sense, we
Yeah.
put the parking
Right.
issues on that sign and nothing else.
And then on the post going down. to
Going
the
down,
bath.
you talk about
Yeah.
fires and
Fire,
trash,
Glass.
Yeah.
Camping,
glass,
overnight,
camping,
yeah.
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul?
OJ, the other thing I want to comment on is that at the Loon Mountain Bridge itself, on the Loon Mountain side, there's if you're coming from Loon back out onto Route 112 on the left-hand side, there's a set of stairs. And I did some research on that bridge when it was constructed. I believe the town owns the right of way there, 40 feet each side of that bridge. So that stairway truly is on town property. The town owns that property. Underneath that bridge for maintenance and the right of way for, I believe, 40 feet each side of it. So the town could construct a set of stairways just like Loon did, or use that, tell Loon that, they can have access down to the river right there. They could park in the Loon Mountain parking lot. I mean, if you want to open up some more access. But that's just another avenue to be able to use, to be able to have access down through there. So, to the river. Because the town does own, I think if you look at it, I think it's 40 feet each side to the right and to the left of that bridge, all the way across the river. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know what,
I don't know.
I remember we traded
The land swap.
the land swap because
Under the
that
old
bridge is
bridge
in
for
a
the
new
new bridge.
location, so
Yep.
we could see.
Yeah.
Swap that land. I don't know if there's any restrictions on what we can use it for.
Moved it.
If you take a look at the bridge drawings and stuff like that, and the easements that were written, you'll see that in the land swap you got the bridge, you got to be able to maintain the bridge, so you got to be able to go, you had to land each side of it to be able to work on the bridge, so it
But
was
it's
40 feet.
also in there that Loon, you can use that land for parking in perpetuity. on
Right,
On that side, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
all right, that,
Well, look,
Anyway, just another,
But
just
late,
another thing for you to
Yeah,
consider.
look at
great
that,
thought. Yeah.
because I don't know what the easement allows, it doesn't allow, if it's just maintenance or whatever, but again, going back to ladies bath.
reel us back in.
Back to ladies.
Let's come to agreement on, if we can figure the signage and the passes out tonight. I think that'll be a huge step forward.
Well, I think deciding who parks there leads you to what the signage is gonna say.
Well, yeah, true. So, my motion then is to restrict it to people that have a dump sticker that we're gonna rename a town facility pass.
Yeah.
And that the same people can get a dump sticker, can get a town utility pass or facility pass, whatever we name it. Again, 16 spaces, who do we want to park there? Any discussion on that?
I'll second your motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Opposed. I
Anyone
can't
opposed?
support restricting access to the river. I just can't.
We're restricting access to the river with 16 spaces.
Yep, and we're restricting it to. Never mind, we've already discussed it ad nauseum.
We're giving
I'm a nay.
priority to those who have a vested interest in this town.
So that
All right.
was
Two
Two ayes,
yeses
okay.
to one
to
no.
Lincoln and Woodstock property owners only.
That- yes,
Why are
because-
we letting Woodstock in?
And residents, because that's who can get a quote unquote dump sticker.
Property owners
Yeah.
only
And they allowed,
with facility pass.
yeah,
With facility
Residents
pass.
and landowners, property owners.
right,
Because you can be a renter and still get.
still have. the
a dump
right
sticker.
to
Okay,
use it.
all right, yeah, residents
Yeah,
and
that's
property
important.
owners only with facilities pass.
Right,
With a dump sticker.
Sorry, we'll make it sound jazzy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay,
all right.
then I
now-
think that dictates what the signage says, right?
Now that's right, now the signage, the parking sign
Oh, here comes Nate.
should have something that says but town sticker only. Nate, did you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, just wanted to go through what I had. I did order signs back in the fall, and I didn't follow up. It was late in the season, and I was busy, and then winter came. So regardless, the signs I did order through a local vendor was 2 signs that said no overnight parking, no open flame, no campfires, no grilling. I ordered 1 sign that said parking for the ladies' bathtub, limited to the 16 lined spaces in circle. All other parking is subject to towing at owner's expense. So if you want that amended, let me know and I will change that and maybe deal with a different vendor to get them expedited.
And that was only once, because I thought we were going to post that in 2 places too, right? As you come in and also on the post as they get down to the river with the no camping, no grilling sign.
What, the parking one?
Yeah, only because when you say that no parking, that means then you don't have to put in the little paper signs with the plaques and all that stuff. But in case they're coming, well, I guess if you position it so they see it when they drive in. We just thought if they didn't see it there, if it was also posted on the post where all the, no light, no glass and all the other stuff is, that if they did park erroneously, it's a second chance for them to say, maybe I shouldn't have parked here, but that's okay. I think if we have 1, that's good. So again, we don't over signage.
We can start with 1
That makes
and
sense.
with the 2, no campfires, no glass signs.
Yeah.
Because they'll be on that post
Right.
anyway, no grilling, no open flames, yeah.
We start with the 1.
Start with the 1, and I would say that 1 parking sign would be bigger, good size.
Yeah.
Just to be able to see when you're in your car. The other two you're gonna see.
When you're walking,
Facing
right?
the-
As
yeah,
opposed
the
when you
trees.
walk down, that sounds great.
All right, so Nate, on that one parking sign, would have to add language that says, with, parking sticker only.
Okay,
Yeah, Nate, if you and I want to go over it tomorrow, just to make sure it sounds like it flows normally,
yeah.
we can go over it before we put the order in.
yeah, absolutely.
And Nate, do you know what our supply of dump stickers are right now? Like, are we down to the last 100, or we got like thousands sitting there waiting to?
It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, I had to rob some from Judy in Woodstock, so I need to place a new order.
Did you say,
Okay.
I think Kristen just reordered them, yes?
Are you doing it, Nate, or is Kristen? Because I know she's asked for them.
I'll talk to her, but either way, if we're gonna order more and you want them different, then we'll have to discuss that.
Yeah, but it can't just say solid waste or whatever the sticker says now, right? We'd have to.
But I think we should use up what we have.
Correct.
Oh,
We should use up
obviously,
what we
oh,
have.
yeah, obviously.
That's fine. But going forward, before we order 5,000 new ones, what do we want them to say? Do we want them to say, town of Lincoln? Oh, no, because the dump is Lincoln and Woodstock,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
It is.
Do you want to say Lincoln, Woodstock,
Municipal pass.
municipal pass?
Yeah.
Municipal pass.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's
that's
do that.
basic, yeah.
And each town can decide what that municipal pass
Is for.
is for. In Lincoln, it gets you to the dump and it gets you to ladies bathtub. And maybe we'll add more stuff on.
Yeah, it gives Woodstock an opportunity
Flexibility
if they
too,
want to
yeah.
restrict certain areas too, yeah.
Yeah, like Staple Rock or
Like what?
they Staple Rock over in Woodstock.
I believe it's
Mirror
Mirror Lake and Mirror Lake.
Yeah.
Lake.
I know
Mirror Lake
was.
came to- That was fist fights of. Because it's on, part of that road's on Thornton,
Mhm.
so
Right.
it was, it was not pretty.
So,
Okay.
all right. So we're good with the pass. We're good with the signage. I'm gonna hope that the messiness, rowdiness, rule breaking gets taken care of through that parking pass system.
Yeah, that would be my hope too. I think we can say, let's see how that takes down some of the trash that we've been seeing, takes down some of the, craziness. That would be the hope, that just by controlling the numbers of people, it's not open to the world. And people who, because of our location, respect the river and the beauty of this place, that it'll be taken better care of.
Well, we're gonna have a department head meeting coming up here soon, so maybe we can just get it back on Chad's radar, the PD's radar, that if they could stroll through there, randomly throughout the day. or
We had
whatnot.
details last year. We literally
Yeah,
had a
that would be
detail
great.
that went to the different swimming holes in town.
Perfect,
Mhm.
Yeah, during the day.
good, I'm so
But
sure
that's
that's,
just-
I've seen some of the police
And
down
that-
at
Yeah.
Old Hole.
yeah,
you
good.
know, adds to the tax burden that we have to have a specific officer just for that, but
Right.
it, and that was due to COVID 2020 when everything
Yeah, it
just
was
was
crazy,
stupid, yeah,
Well, I'll touch base with them anyways.
absolutely, yeah.
I do think it would be helpful to work with the Chamber of Commerce and even White Mountains Attractions to list other alternatives to,
Right.
for swimming holes.
Or maybe we
Yeah,
just
but
also
there is
just,
the old hole.
yeah,
I was gonna say, Lincoln has one other alternative. Lincoln can't ask anybody to put out other swimming holes in other towns. That's not fair. That's not right. And Lincoln has the old hole.
we could make White Mountain Attractions aware that we are moving or taking the shift to Lincoln and Woodstock residents and taxpayers only. So when they promote it, they can put a little disclaimer.
That's a good
Or
idea.
something along those
But
lines.
let's not
that
encourage
this is-
them to list
Let's
other
not- yeah,
towns,
but-
yeah.
When they promote our spot, they could have a little asterisk with a disclaimer that says 16 parking passes
Limited
for
to,
Lincoln
yeah,
and Woodstock residents and taxpayers
yeah.
only. I mean, that's as easy as just sending an email to them, yeah.
that's a good call.
All right, anything else on ladies bathtub? Excellent, let's move on then.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy, thank you for your
Oh,
persistence
thank
and your cooperation. It's nice to have a,
And did I mention, I will also check our sign, as Paul mentioned, to make sure that there's nothing on our sign that contradicts what your sign says. That our sign says that it is specific to riverfront parking spaces, that our particular sign, that they are free to come into the bath, if you have the appropriate sticker and stuff. I'll check our sign.
Ed Paul?
Oh, Jay, if you're gonna, just a recommendation, if you're gonna put a sign down there to do any towing. I know when I put those ones up for the developer at the landing, it had to have the company that was going to be doing the towing. So we nominated chose to use Ham's Towing. And also, so it had to have, cars will be towed by Arnold's Towing and the telephone number that they could be reached at, as well as the Lincoln Police Department and their telephone number, so that if someone did get towed, they would know where they could pick their car up at. So that was all, just a suggestion that if you do put a sign up like that, you put those two things on there.
Our sign has that.
That's
It's
why I never get
required.
towed.
Yeah.
Okay. we can figure that out.
Ever.
And I don't know if we want that on the main sign, or if we want that on a smaller little sign.
Maybe attach to the sign,
All you, actually,
like a smaller sign underneath the big sign, maybe that
oh,
just
so
has the phone
there's a couple
numbers.
places that just have Arnold's Auto Center phone number. No, you know, if your car was towed, contact if your car was towed, please call, and
Yeah,
it's
and just.
Arnold's
yeah.
Auto Center phone number.
Yeah, I think that's what ours says. It just says.
Just the
you
phone
know,
number,
Will
yeah.
be subject to towing, and then I think it says call.
It has the
yes.
phone number, yeah.
We
That's
can
the phone
incorporate it
number.
easily.
Yeah.
yeah,
It just
we'll
takes
figure
up less space on,
Space,
si-
yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
it.
You
Okay,
just have to tell them where to find their car. That's
Exactly.
Basically, it.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and that is encouraged because they'll call 911.
Yeah.
If they come out and their car's missing, the first thing they do is call 911. Which
Someone stole my car.
is not appropriate. Exactly, exactly, yes. Which is why we can't tow anything without notifying the PD first, always.
Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
For
Thank
listening to
you.
us and working with us. And
Thanks for
we will
coming in, Cindy.
continue to work with you. And it's a beautiful spot. We want to keep it that way. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is looking at the Board of Selectmen's goals. Do we all have the ones from last year?
Yeah, because Jane's awesome.
Yes,
Gave it
Jane,
to
thank
us.
you for keeping
So I
us.
didn't have to dig through to find them.
Water meters, I remember.
Yes, water meters. Right,
All right.
OJ?
It's number one on the list.
And I think it should remain number one on the list.
I'll make a motion to take it off the list.
Ah. Oh, here we go. Only people that let their water run all year don't want water meters.
That's not true. The Budget committee was against it.
I mean, we had this battle. I mean, we're gonna be just fighting it every year. I'm not against water meters. I just, again, don't believe that that's the number one priority in our water system. I think we're working right now on what's number one in my mind is
Tank.
the tank. And then I think, the next $1.8 million, instead of spending it on water meters, should go to the,
And it's funny
North
that the tank's
section
not
of
even
Route
on the
3.
list at all.
the what?
Is there a tank even on the list at all? It's not there.
Yeah, it is number 5, adding addition to self-peak water tank.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, thanks.
It was there.
That's for sure it was. All right.
Oh, I
So-
see, I looked at the village.
So-
tank
so
and then-
For our 2022 goals, is it our intention to take any action on water meters?
All right.
Keeping my mouth
You
shut.
say yes, you say no? I vote no. That comes off.
Not surprised.
Village at Loon water pipe to the tank feeding Coolidge Falls and Clarebrook. While this is still, in my mind, a priority and should get addressed, I don't think we should do it until the South Peak tank is built and operating. The new pressure reducing valve is in there to feed or, what do I want to say, feed that tank or feed that, have the ability to be the backup for that other zone up there. And then once
We
those,
had that engineer, Chris Levy's firm.
Oil Tanner.
Thank you. We have a report from them saying that it's just gonna be a nightmare no matter when or how we do it.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's not something that we can just, oh, let's think
Just
about
do
doing
it,
it next year. I mean, this is gonna be a multi-year project with just the engineering and design, I think. And the easements and whatnot, we're gonna have to dig through there. So keep that in mind when you're prioritizing this.
Right. I'd like to leave it on the list and, you know, maybe this, what our next step would on this be is to either put it into the CIP to put money aside, because it is, I mean, the first step is engineering a solution. Right now, the water is being fed to our water tank runs through the Village of Loon's private water system. So when something breaks there, is it our pipe or is it their pipe?
And it's not currently on the CIP?
I don't
I don't
remember.
believe so.
I don't believe so either. So I'd like to leave that on the list and encourage the CIP group to look at that. Sure. All right, sewer issues, capacity and town growth, sewer upgrades and funding. I don't know what the next step is on that. We're at 60-something% capacity, 68.
Your limiting factors is the headworks going in and the infrastructure, the piping.
Right.
Which should be resolved, sorry, Jack,
go ahead.
which should be resolved within the next,
Not the headwork.
Yeah.
No, the surcharge pipe out here is gonna be resolved by that.
by
developer
the
out
hotel,
there.
right?
But there's, you've heard it on meetings, potentially other growth that might be coming our way.
That's what I was gonna ask you. If you added 300 new hotel rooms, plus a second phase with Riverwalk,
That's already
It's included.
gotten their piece.
those 300 units are of the hotel?
The vested projects were included in Ray Corber's
Yeah.
analysis of the sewer, which is Riverwalk
Yeah,
Phase 2.
yeah,
um,
the Hampton Inn,
all of South Peak,
yeah.
the whole 1,018 units or equivalent. The Hampton Inn and the Fairfield, thank you.
And Southern partner, the Rapids was on there.
And the Rapids.
too.
So that's up to the 68% or what have you.
Yeah, that's the 68%.
68.
You know, it's your infrastructure and the surcharged areas that'll have to be addressed, but I think the planning board's putting that on the developer. Developers coming forward with a new project. They need to do an engineering study of the capacity and how it's gonna get there. And mitigate the situation. That's what happened with the previous decision, so.
Yeah, and we had talked before about impact fees, you know, in addition to the tap fees, so.
I think you just stuck with the water and sewer. That would impact these, right?
Right, but those are flat fees. everybody pays the same for a bedroom, no matter where it is or what.
Mhm.
Something like the Fairfield Inn is paying an off-site improvement fee, which is a form of impact fee, because that section of sewer right there
8 foot piece pipe.
can't fit all their sewer in it.
Yeah.
So we're putting it on them to increase it, they need to get it,
Right.
Right.
And
Down
it's
to
their
the plant.
responsibility.
yeah. So I mean, I say we leave that on the list.
I don't see that. Sorry, I was just looking at the CIP.
What do you,
The Loon Village. I don't see it on there, but I just want a second set of eyes.
Water main going up there.
Yeah.
Was that just generalized under water system improvements?
I mean, there is.
yeah, I don't see it as a specific line item,
No, I didn't.
and
see
it probably should be.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna just mark that that's gonna be a CIP issue. All right, the sewer is on there, and I think should remain on there and keep moving forward with that. And again, we're gonna need to do a sludge removal at some point. Nate, do you know what the, when the next, whatever you call it, depth measurement is on the sludge?
So I talked to Ray about this, OJ, just recently when we redid our permit through EPA for this year. And I have it scheduled to do a full depth sludge study this year.
This year,
Oh, good.
okay.
Correct.
All right, so we'll know later on this year what the results are and hopefully the results will be that we still have more time to do this.
Yep. And then also upcoming, I believe either this year, I think it's next year, we should be getting a preliminary EPA permit so that we can start that process.
Hmm.
And that will determine everything that moves forward with the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, we say preliminary permit, that's to recertify what's there now and tell us what we need to do to make it remain compliant.
That's correct. Yep.
And they will typically give us time to make the improvements.
I believe Ray said they give us, I think they give us a year or maybe even 2 years to negotiate with them on their findings of what we need to do for our effluent levels, which will determine what we do down there.
Is that what they call the discharge permit?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we obviously need to leave that issue on our goals for the year. Number 1, pending the sludge study. Number 2, pending the EPA's list of demands and
They're fine.
The exact.
findings, their findings. Okay, their list.
The CIP lists the sludge removal for 2024, so that's about,
Yeah.
the timeline is making sense as far as with the CIP.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that sludge measurement that he's got lined up for this year will say, oh, you got more time.
There was a prompt in 2018, so was it done in 18 as well?
No, the sludge removal, when was
Not,
the last
not
time?
removal, the
Oh, the
measuring.
test.
To measure it, yeah.
So Utility Partners measures it regularly just by going out in the boat and they use sludge sticks so they can see where it's at.
Gotcha.
But it's not like a real engineered study of where it's at throughout the whole pond.
Thank God we have them. I don't, not want that job.
All right. Did you have any comments? I know going back a little bit, the pipes running through the village up to to fill our tank.
Yep.
Is that something we should have like a Weston and Sampson, Hoyle Tanner, someone design what we really need for that? Or is that more working out I guess more of a political solution with the village for us to use their piping on some cooperative basis?
Honestly, I don't know where you really want to go with that. Just, I don't know.
Right.
I know, our we don't really necessarily have an easement throughout the entire village of Loon. I know that all of the distribution throughout the village of Loon is asbestos cement pipe, dated back to probably the early 70s. There is some issues with it. As long as it's, not disturbed, it's fine. The problems that I've seen since I've worked here with that distribution system is the fact that every single saddle that's on those pipes, the saddle straps are all steel, so they rot out. Other than that, the pipe should be fine, but we don't own any of it. We own what's across the river, and that's it.
Well, that's something that certainly needs to stay on our radar. And again, I don't know if the solution is putting all new piping in or working with them to
Sort of MOU.
to maintain cooperatively the system in there. Obviously, it's not to anyone's advantage to have straps rust out and not fix them and pipes become leaking.
Yeah, every water tap has a saddle strap that holds it
To each building,
well, every tap off of the main distribution system has that clamping device.
Right.
Like maybe.
Yeah, so
Roading up.
like Ron's saying, everywhere there's a curb stop inside that entire development, they tap that pipe with a saddle with straps, and what happens is the straps rust out and break off, and then eventually the saddle lets go. I've helped them every time they have an issue. We go and help, and one time I saw they actually tried to tap that asbestos cement pipe with just a straight corporation, which I've never seen before. But so far, I'm knocking on my wood desk. It didn't have an issue there this year, so that's good.
Yeah. Pandora's box, you just
I know.
jinxed yourself.
all right. The next thing on the list is work on obtaining written agreements defining responsibilities for the privately operated redistribution systems.
Ray was working on that with Butch, so maybe can you touch
Check
base
into
with
that,
Ray
yeah.
and see where we're at there before we make a decision on that one?
Nate, were you involved in any of the discussions with Ray on those privately owned distribution systems?
I was, and I still am, and also DES has taken quite a lead on that as well. So they have been in the past, I think, 2 to 3 years, honing in on all those pores and making sure they're in compliance. So maybe I could reach out to them just to make sure, see where they're at with that. But that they are really, DES oversees all of them because they have to report to DES. So
Nate, how many do we have in town?
I think there's at least 6, maybe 8.
And are they all registered?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Whether they're in compliance or not, I don't know.
Yeah, because I know up near my home, there was one that was not registered. And there was no testing done for a substantial amount of time. Now it's in compliance. I know that for a fact. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I believe DES has now been made aware over the past few years. And I don't know where their staff is at it making sure they're all in compliance or not, but yeah, they all are required to do their bacteria testing.
Okay, the next one is a process and timeline to resolve water pressure issues, adding addition to the South Peak tank, additional tank at new location. We're full bore on that right now.
Mhm.
In process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which, speaking of that, has there been any response from Mark's attorney?
Yes,
On the
so
net?
actually this morning, Mark's attorney sent myself and Jason Dennis an email. I believe they will be on the agenda next Monday night to discuss the easement and the specifics therein.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay,
What about survey? That was the thing that was holding
The
up.
survey, essentially, once Mark gives us the go-ahead on the easement or the general vicinity of the easement, Sam Kenny from Weston Sampson said that he would coordinate with Horizons to get the remainder of the site area surveyed.
And is he so
So-
confident that we're gonna be able to complete this before
We're essentially,
Knock on wood.
he says that once Mark gives him the green light, he's gonna get the ball
Great.
rolling.
Excellent.
There are some, I guess we can talk about this more on Monday, but there's some concerns right now, you know. Mark seems to be in general favor of moving forward with an easement prior to getting Forest Service approval.
Mhm.
But his attorney did say that was part of the stipulation in the agreement that we would have Forest Service approval prior to. We now know that we cannot get that without
Right,
it. I mean,
right,
it's a chicken, you know,
right,
you know. So I explained that to Jason. Jason was out of the office today. He'll return tomorrow. So hopefully we can come to some sort of, even if it's a memorandum of understanding between the two parties,
Sure.
or there's a revision to the current agreement that we have, just so, I guess essentially he's protected
Sure, sure.
in the event of this all falls through.
So
This
this
should
isn't
be,
gonna hold it up.
this should be easy. Like I said,
easy ways to do
there
that.
should be some easy ways to do it. You know, there was mention of an escrow. We don't have funds for an escrow agreement,
No.
essentially. So, again, Jason and I are supposed to touch base on this tomorrow, but most likely this will be an agenda item for next Monday.
So throw out the idea of an escrow of an agreement rather than cash.
The cash.
In other words, we will sign it, we will sign an agreement that says we release the easement that you gave us. And then hold that signed easement in
In
escrow. And there would be a triggering event for that, like he could give us 2 years to get Forest
Sure.
Service approval. If in 2 years we don't have it, he
Right.
just
Gets
goes
his
and
easement back.
registers that
Right.
release.
Right.
I mean, there's easy ways to do that. that cost
Absolutely, it
nothing.
shouldn't,
Yeah.
right, this shouldn't hold us up. And,
All right.
and the attorney, his attorney did say that, you know, we're willing to work with you, but we just need to formalize things. essentially.
Absolutely.
That's fine. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
All right.
So that one we could put it in process.
In process, yeah. Next is the Main Street crosswalks.
Done.
Just went off blinking, and I don't think we need to keep that on the list
Nope,
anymore.
they're all
they're done.
finished.
All right, public parking / riverfront parking, that was on,
Yeah.
to increase public parking areas,
We're addressing it.
which we are addressing. It's,
Put it
gonna
in
be part of the
process with
riverfront-
that as well.
riverfront, what's that?
We'll put it in
process,
process, in
yep.
progress or something.
Yep.
In
Tank
process.
rec parking area, that
In
remains on our
process.
Yep,
list.
Nate's gonna do that.
Workforce housing. We left it on the list last year, acknowledging that there were no immediate action items, but it's certainly a concern.
I think it's still a need in the town. I would love to see it remain.
Okay, I agree. Obtaining valuable members to join town committees. That has been a struggle. I think we need to leave that on the list.
I agree. We need to redo the wording.
Yeah, it talks about Brooke Rose will no longer be
Planning
doing
and
the
hiring,
minutes.
I-
That was a bit
Many
ago.
moons ago, it
Yes.
feels like it.
Just leave with it, this will remain on the list.
Let's
Yeah.
leave this, let's cut the second sentence out of that completely.
Perfect.
Recruitment strategies for board members. No, that's- you don't want to see me tell you.
All right, next is short-term rentals. We've obviously taken action on that. I know you're gonna report
Mhm.
on that tonight,
Yep.
but let's leave that on the list because it's,
Can we take away all the wording under it and just say in process?
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's true, because none of that really
Right.
It's relevant
relates.
anymore.
Right.
All right, now, is there anything that we want to add to this list? I will propose that we add as a goal, solving the signage parking issues at Ladies Bathtub, which we've taken hopefully a step tonight, but we need to keep on top of that and take any other further steps that may come up before us.
Can we add to that, the follow up with additional river access if possible? I'm just thinking that other, the loose parking area,
Roll
you
it
know,
into one.
but I don't want to limit it to just that,
No,
so,
just
yeah,
roll it into one.
yeah, trying
project.
to, yeah, exactly.
How about if we roll that into number 7, where we talk
Yeah.
about public parking and riverfront parking? The riverfront parking was alluding to the site.
I thought it was Riverfront Park,
I did too.
Yeah.
the parking area at Riverfront Park.
Yeah.
All right, how about if we go
That's
public
gonna be river
parking
access.
/
It is gonna be river access, yeah,
Riverfront Park's gonna have a river
yeah,
access.
and that's in phase 1 because it's part of the grant.
public parking, riverfront parking / what do we want to call that?
River access,
Public access.
public river, additional river access.
Additional river access, I like that.
East of Culver Brook.
But we're, and no, I don't wanna limit it, I wanna do it, I mean, we can get anywhere we can
We have
get some
place
river
for
access for
property there.
folks that's feasible and viable, then, yeah. And there's great parking at the cemetery, you know, the river right there too. We've done it before.
Never thought of going to that section.
Yeah.
All right, so number 7, we're gonna add additional river access, and then number, whatever's next, 12, we'll put signage and parking at Ladies Bathtub?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we want to add to the list?
Also.
Oh, Paul?
Hey, I don't know if you want to add to the list or not, but what's going on with the town park down there? I mean, should that be on your list, getting that up and going? It's only been, I don't know how many years it's been, but, and that might also be another place to have river access as well.
We are
was just
expecting to
thinking.
get that report, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, this month.
Yes.
And then once we have that, because they've done all the testing and they're doing the analyzing, we should have that anytime. Once we have that, then it's the mitigation strategy that
Correct.
they come up with.
Brownsfield.
So, I mean, Riverfront Park, the Riverfront parking, I mean, that's, maybe we just put Riverfront Park on the
Park,
list or
yeah.
something, but that is definitely in process.
Yeah.
In progress. We just, you know, the Brownfield grant is literally doing it. We don't even look at a piece of paper or sign an invoice, nothing. They're doing it. So we have to go with their timeline because so it doesn't cost the taxpayers a red cent. But it is happening. It is in
Yes.
progress.
Yeah. we
I
were-
was just thinking it might be another great place to add river access. You
It
know,
has river access
That's part of
already
the-
in phase 1. We have to complete the river access in phase 1 to comply with the grant we received. So that's already there.
that'd be a really good thing to add in.
Absolutely. Already there.
All right, so we'll add riverfront park as just a whole project.
Sure.
Both the parking and the river access
Yep,
and
just
the
Riverfront
environmental
Park,
cleanup,
period. Yep.
everything. Anything else you want to add?
I know I've had two different people who I don't even think know each other in the past month or so, ask about whatever happened with burying the power lines on Main Street. And it was a huge money, right? But one person was upset because we never even, and I say we loosely because this has never been a conversation had in the 10 or 12 years that I've been on the board. Well, 10 or 11 years I've been on the board. So I don't know what we ever did as far as trying to get grants or monies or looking into it or anything. I just don't know.
Let me fill you in that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you,
When
Jeff.
Ted Sutton was the town manager, I came to him and I said to him, Ted, what do you see when you look out the window here? He said, I see eclectic buildings, different shops up and down. I said, you know what I see? I
Power
see
lines.
goddamn telephone poles and power lines. He looked out the window. He said, you're right. I said, there's a grant from the federal government called Beautify Main Street. I said, I'll write the grant for nothing. I talked to the power company. It's $1 million a mile to bury it. We've got $1 million here. I said, but the caveat here, or the catch was that there was a 75% federal funds, 25% local. So the town would have had to come up with 250. He brought it before the selectmen at the time, and somebody get up and said, well, my great grandfather was here when those were 4-party telephone lines, so they were good enough for him.
Oh,
They're
gotcha.
good enough for him. So good enough for me and good enough for now. We don't need to spend town money. So it went the way of the dinosaur. So,
And
but
I imagine now that quote is much
A little old.
greater.
Mm.
yeah. But again, that grant money is gone. I mean, I know some towns on the other side, Woodsville, I think, used it to put up mailboxes.
Yeah.
You know, to beautify their main street. They did some curb cuts and things like that, curving sidewalks and things like
Yeah.
that. But
Well, you know
so
what?
that was part of it, Tim.
Sure. Thank you
One
for
thing that
that.
would also help Main Street is the signage. You know, that's something that DOT
Yes.
had mentioned when we were in
Mm.
the meeting with DOT, that if we had a sign ordinance that was
Uniformity.
enforceable, that had a emphasis on beautification and condensing and having multiple, you know, and
Yes.
having multiple
Yes.
signs on one post
In
versus
uniform.
in
I
uniform.
was in Maine somewhere, and every sign was exactly the same, and it was the easiest town to, I forget what the town was shopping somewhere, but it was the easiest place to go and get to and see and know where you're going and find information because every sign was the same, so it was very clear and easy. I loved it.
But that's also an enormous undertaking, especially in a community where most of the businesses are grandfathered into pre-zoning and whatnot.
So, I mean, am not in favor of spending taxpayer dollars to bury power lines on Main Street. However, if there's anything out there that,
The grants.
yeah, I mean, it might be beneficial, maybe just have a conversation with the co-op to see
Sure.
if they have any ideas or anything.
Speaking of Main Street, that was on my list. I'll jump to it now since somebody just mentioned it. Is that the new command center that's parked down by the Lincoln sign down there?
Where's that?
He's talking about the
That
camper.
camper,
Oh, the camper.
Yeah, is that the new command center or the mobile command center or what the hell's going on with that?
It's a good question, and we are looking into it,
mhm,
Okay.
because that was my question, why hasn't that thing been towed already?
because they can't get anyone to tow it. Because there's no
What are you
freaking
talking
way
about?
that's gonna be part of my driveway until we could get the
The
proper.
camper,
Who
that's by
dropped-
7-Eleven.
It takes about 6 to 8 months to get the paperwork done so that we can dispose of it.
But who dropped it there?
The gentleman that got stopped.
That got, yeah.
Yeah. And nobody.
Somebody was towing it privately?
Yeah,
Mhm.
with an undersized vehicle, got rightfully pulled over by a police officer.
So we have the name and address of that individual.
The
Yeah,
police
that's-
department has been working with that individual.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they're
it's-
working on it.
So I thought it was a new command center.
No, no.
Um,
no.
And then the towing company went on vacation for 10 days, so they kind of stalled it for a little while.
Okay.
He's back now, though.
Well, at least it's in plain sight.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
not hidden out in the
unfortunately.
woods
Yeah, it's
somewhere.
Right.
beautiful.
so, yeah. I think that's gonna be the new selectman's office.
There we go. All right, getting next to the list. Anything else you want to add to it? We've added a couple of things. All right,
Oh, what about the industrial park?
I still think half of that should be workforce housing.
That hasn't been talked about in a few years and nothing's happened.
Yeah, no,
Just not here.
and which kind of is weird with the way that land has exploded, but it's all homes. People aren't buying land to put in businesses. We need housing.
You know, the restrictions and all that were
The covenants.
discussed when,
When the room filled up and we got yelled at for thinking about it.
but when a, you know, a contractor wanted to use it, basically that those lots can't be used by plumbers, electricians, construction companies that don't do their work on that site.
At least have one or two employees on site
All the
during the
time.
full workday.
Right.
Now, we did discuss changing that. There was a legal way to do it through town meeting, but we never followed up on it. We also talked about changing the zoning on part of it, so it could be housing, because there is a second entrance off of Pollard Road. Again, it just never got followed up on.
I think there was strong opposition to both of those, and
Yeah, all 15 people in the room didn't want it.
I think it's more than that, but,
It's frustrating that there's such a need, but, you know, a few dozen people show up and
I don't know if it's being advertised.
it's not,
We don't have a real.
it's not listed. I've searched it a couple times. It's
no,
not
we
listed.
don't have it listed.
We hadn't talked about it.
It's open, again, I guess my thought is that we're not in a rush to sell it as much as find an appropriate person to build something there that, meets the criteria.
See, you made a great point when we were talking about it, that when that land was made, and I think it came from Deanna actually, and you reiterated it, when it was done, when the industrial park, the business park, whatever you want to call it, was developed, there was a need to bring businesses into this town, to bring employers into town. There was a real need for it. There is not that need anymore. Now the need is to bring in housing to support the businesses that are in town. I still think that that's the way we should go. And I think that there's a very easy way to do that safely with fencing, with shrubbery, because there's a second entrance. And it still leaves 4 saleable plots in there. If we cut it off where that last business is, take the cul-de-sac, make housing, and have the entrance and exit for that onto Pollard Road between the Liberties and Dumont's, where we own a right of way. I still think that that is the option that the town needs the most.
Well, we have workforce housing on the list.
Mhm.
Let's include it in that.
The big
Okay.
issue in that was changing the zoning in that, I believe, in that, which had to be done through town meeting.
That's correct.
And it also included the deed restrictions, which also had to be done. And I don't remember if that was just a legal thing or through town meeting. I don't recall that part, honestly.
Well, you have to respect the businessmen that did buy in.
Absolutely,
I mean, they bought into, quote, an industrial park. They didn't buy into a housing. And so
absolutely.
consequently, if something has to be done, it should be done in conjunction with those that are already, invested their money, invested their workforce in that site. What do we have? 2, 3, 4?
Well, one business and then the firewood business.
Yeah, that's Kevin Sullivan's business.
The
Right,
blocks, yeah,
and then Donahue's.
Donahue's, and Donahue was grandfathered in because he did the site work there,
Correct.
I guess.
he has 2
So
adjoining lots.
That's why he was exempted from the current restriction of maintaining somebody on that site, if I remember correctly.
He got his deeds prior to restrictions being
Yeah,
put on.
that's
them.
what I was
Correct.
told anyways.
That is correct.
All right, let's move on. Tax collector appointment.
That's you.
Oh.
Do we have say, we have someone to appoint and
So,
did she accept?
are we
or is
ready,
she
or-
Ready, or trained, and
Sandy's last day is Friday.
Uh-huh.
It's,
So we don't have a choice.
we don't have a choice. We are still in the process of, I guess, deciding if this was the best route for us. It was truly the only route for us. You know, we had that advertised for months and no one, you know, we had 2 applications. We interviewed one and
The other one,
the other one,
that's true,
yeah.
yeah.
So, she's been training. We'll make it the best we can. Is it a permanent solution? I'm not sold on that, but it's something that we're
Is
going
she
to.
amenable to being appointed as tax collector?
Yes, for
She
now,
is,
yes,
okay.
we've discussed that this is not, we're all very aware that this may not be permanent. But to get us through this first tax billing cycle and to
Okay.
get us to a point this summer where money's flowing in and we are
Gotcha.
comfortable. Sandy is gonna, we did get through the leaning process. The date is next Monday, next Tuesday. We most likely won't have any properties to deed anyways, so
Okay.
those kind of responsibilities will be taken care of, and it really will just be getting us through the first billing cycle. And
Fantastic.
then we can make a
More permanent decision.
more permanent decision at
But
that
you're
point.
on that.
But we're on that, yes.
Awesome. So
Yes.
I will
It's
make,
temporary.
No, I think, well, I don't know, was Sandy appointed as interim or was Sandy appointed
she was
as?
appointed. And we put it interim, okay.
I don't see any harm
I do.
doing either way.
I make a motion, we appoint Lisa Paluso as our tax collector.
Want to second that?
So,
Any other-
Whether it's interim or permanent, we still have to go through the same motions,
right.
whether we change it or not. We
Right.
still have to
Appoint.
reappoint and we gotta assign the warrant and we gotta go through all those motions and make sure
Yes.
the balancing happens from the end of the month. So no
Right.
matter what, whether it's interim or permanent, we gotta go through the same
Right,
motions.
right.
All right, so we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye. And thank Lisa for taking on that responsibility. It's
I mean,
huge. and we
She stepped
really-
up and
appreciate
offered
her.
and,
Yes.
you know, we've kind of been very honest from the get-go. We're gonna see if it works and if it doesn't, we'll move to plan B.
But let
That's
her
all we
know
can
that-
do,
Let her,
right?
thank her and let her know we really appreciate her.
I will.
Obviously, the time that Sandy has been spending doing this job.
Yeah.
Lisa's gonna now have to spend that amount of time,
Yes,
which takes her away from
yes,
planning stuff. Now,
Got it.
granted, the short-term rental thing should be way reduced with Granicus being contracted.
yes.
So that'll free up a chunk of Lisa's time to dedicate towards tax collecting. Is that enough? I'm not.
Is Ryan gonna be able to pick up the slot?
Yeah, so we have a town hall employee meeting on Friday. We're gonna do lunch to kind of talk all these things through, to make sure
Okay,
that
okay.
everyone's on the same
Okay.
page. And so that we're all clear who's going where and what's gonna happen, and that we're kind of in a transitional phase. But that's all gonna happen on Friday. So at least everyone's on the same
Okay.
page, knowing we're gonna work together to work ourselves through it and we'll figure it out.
Great. Thank you for that.
No worries.
All right, town managers report.
Okay, that's me. We already discussed the Chenard site visit. That is gonna happen for May 10th, so we're good with that.
Does that need to be where it's an attorney-client thing that doesn't need to be posted as a selectmen's meeting, even though all 3 of us are going to be there? And it's not open to the public, correct?
It's not open to, I mean, I think technically it could be considered a non-meeting with town council.
Town council will be present.
Town council will be
Yeah.
present, so I think we're fine. Like
I would
said,
double check.
I'm touching base with Jason on a
Okay.
couple of things tomorrow anyways. I'll just confirm
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I mean, worst case scenario, we throw up a site visit agenda, you know, saying this is what
As
will
a-
be
as
at
a
this time.
non-public.
As a non-public,
Yeah,
right.
okay, thank you.
Granicus short-term management. So I did speak with Bruce from Granicus and we did whittle it down to the 3 major components that we wanted to.
Fantastic.
We settled on a quarterly billing cycle. Our reasoning behind this is that we could essentially start to try to recoup some revenue while the expenditures are going out at the same time. So it's almost a net. I mean, there will be some expenditures up
Sure,
front that
sure.
we're gonna have to just, you know, bear that.
Yep.
But we were thinking that if we did it quarterly on a fiscal year, starting in May of every year, or end of April, I think we signed it for April 29th or something.
Whatever, yeah.
But then we could try to balance our expenses with the revenues coming in. So
Fantastic.
I thought it was fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah. So that's good to go. We've signed and he,
Excellent.
sent me the revised contract this morning, and it didn't have the quarterly billing on it, so I asked him to revise it, so we should get that.
Excellent.
too. So,
Cool.
We were awarded the $50,000 for the local equipment program for the new radios for the PD and for the fire department. We had those on order as of last Friday. They were doing some tweaking on the contract just to kind of put our purchase order number and stuff on there so we could seek reimbursement from the Gopher program. So we are good to go on that.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
And that was 50,000.
50,000, yep. And our total expenditures are actually 65, but Ron had budgeted 17 and change for his radios anyway, so we're using what
Oh,
was budgeted
perfect.
so we can get a full set for them. And that covers our share of the grant.
Right, great.
Right.
So
Excellent.
instead of getting 4 radios, for what I budgeted for, I'm getting 12
He's getting
Wonderful.
with spare batteries, mic, and program.
the programming. yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
And the PD's getting 4 mobile radios.
Great.
So it's good. It's gonna get everyone up to speed and on current
Excellent.
equipment.
Excellent.
Awesome. Compliance reporting, we submitted our annual compliance reporting for the ARPA fund, so that's taken care of for 2022. We collected it all, or we categorized it all as lost revenue so that all those funds can be spent at essentially our discretion. I know we have them earmarked for the water tank, but that covers us for 2022, however we want to spend it, so.
Fantastic.
We also added our first quarter Northern Borders grant for the water tank project.
Sure.
We did our first quarter compliance reporting for that as well. So we are good to go on those 2 grants. Scenic Byways grant, the formal application is due on Friday. I worked on it all day today. It's a lot more detailed than I thought it was gonna be, I'm not gonna lie. We need the byways management plan from North Country Council, and we need their council members and the byways council, so it was a little more of an undertaking than I thought it was gonna be. I didn't realize that we were gonna have to coordinate so much with the byways council. But I reached out to North Country Council today. She provided me the information I needed. Anything I didn't get today, she said she should have for me by the end of tomorrow. So we're still slated to apply for that on Friday. So.
Great.
Nate and I put together an advertisement for highway laborer this week. Jane got it up on NHMA last Friday. I went to look at the ad today on NHMA. There were 55 jobs posted today on NHMA. 55. So it just shows the climate, the workforce climate that we're in. I mean, 55 job postings with, I think there was 6 or 8 towns. They had 55 job postings. We were on page 4 and we did it on Friday. Holy moly. So we're hoping we get some great applicants.
No, that's
The
the,
guy's cabin?
that's the first of 3 cabins.
Oh, yeah.
delivered.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
it's free,
They
yeah.
just drove by.
Oh, they did?
Oh, cool. I'm gonna have to go that way. Take a long way home and look. That's cool.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that, but we want to get the ball rolling on it.
Was this
So
a
it may
new
take a
position?
while. So essentially, Nate and I discussed, and Nate can chime in if he likes. Nate is going to potentially see some other vacancies in his departments by the end of the summer. And he thinks that this is the best route to go in to get him in line for the summer and then for plowing in the winter.
Yeah.
And then we can work towards the water operator, which is a more specialized skill set to kind of find the right person for that. So, so we're starting with the highway laborer driver essentially. Mhm. And then in your packets, just an update on the county broadband project. I've included our kind of selling documents so you can see what we've been doing. That ball is still rolling. I met with the county executive committee this morning. Again, it's still status quo. We're still in the planning process. We're still in the engineering phases, but at least now we have a fun selling document to give to all the communities and the businesses who are interested in getting on board. So.
Excellent.
The last thing I have, and it's not on my report, but I wanted to talk to the board about it, is we had the gentleman who is planning to do the flooring come in this week or last week. And unfortunately, he came in with his contractors and they don't believe that they can go over the floor anymore.
I was afraid of that, and he said it would be close.
Yeah.
He did.
There, over the winter, we did have a couple tiles just totally
Popped, yeah.
lift right up, and when
Yeah.
once one lifted, then it kind of
Right.
spread out. So he's gonna revise a quote for us. It's potentially gonna be, he said, an additional $2,000.
Do we have that in the building maintenance, CIP?
I think we're gonna have to find it.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
disagree.
You know, whether it's comes out of the building maintenance CIP or it comes out of a building general fund
Mhm.
account. I think we have to do it, and I don't want to stall the project. Because, and I think there was arguments to begin with that to do it right would be to take up that flooring to ensure that it, it has some
And
longevity.
he did mention that. He said you can, at this point, we can go over, he said, but it was close.
Yeah.
And that was when he gave us a quote, like October, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were afraid of that.
So that was confirmed. So he's gonna revise a quote for us and it will be potentially a couple $1,000s more
And
than what
does
we
he have-
anticipated.
Everything else lined up as far as the flooring itself, do we have a timeline? Do we have anything like that?
No, he was coming back.
He's gonna come back with a revised quote.
With a
Okay.
revised
Just
quote
in
and-
case
right.
you guys, because I'm not sure, what was it again? With covering it?
Right, well, the total
it-
together was what, 10 or 15?
10,000
Yeah.
sounds right, I
Right.
think, so. Just want to make sure now that they know what this entails and the labor and tearing it up, we're gonna do it on the weekend.
Right, told him I'd come up and, but he knows, but we're on his
Right.
schedule now. you know,
Oh, we
he's-
are,
We
yeah.
are,
Right,
yeah.
oh, good, oh,
Yeah.
good. That was, I was making sure we were on the schedule.
Yes,
Because
So,
they
we
are
are.
so busy, yeah.
yes,
Town Hall 7.
I'd like to see the quote.
okay.
Um,
I'll hopefully have it for you
definitely.
by next Monday,
okay,
just to take a feedback.
Yeah, 15.6 for the two,
And that's the carpet.
the
and
carpet and
the floor.
And
the
the floor,
flooring.
yeah.
And that was outside of Jonna and Carol's office, and then the whole entry hallway.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
So hopefully we have an updated quote within the next week or two. And that's all I have.
All right,
Thank you for that.
No worries.
we'll take a 5-minute break before we move into.
No, no,
All
so I'm
right.
just kidding.
Run the meeting.
You can pause for just until he's done taking his break.
Oh, yes, sorry, I was like, what is this? So I guess our previous resolution didn't have the $1,500 figure, and that's $1,500 figure is set by state statute. So anytime anyone collects over $1,500, it has to be submitted to the town treasurer, or it has to be deposited into the bank account. And this is essentially allowing the town clerk to collect funds and then deposit them on a weekly basis in the amount of the $1,500.
Okay. The town clerk or the town treasurer?
The town treasurer is giving the town
Town
clerk
clerk,
authority to
okay.
collect it, yes.
All right.
Why don't you do those, OJ, before we do public participation?
All right, I didn't even read these yet. You explained this one,
Yes,
and that seems to make sense. Do we need a motion on this?
I think you should, because I think that the dollar figure has changed, the 1,500 has changed. I mean, that's what state statute says, but we,
All right, then I'll make a motion that we pursuant to the provisions of RSA 4129-2, the town treasurer has the responsibility to deposit all such monies received by the town of Lincoln in appropriate financial institutions as outlined in the statute. RSA 4129-6 allows the treasurer to delegate deposit or other financial functions to other town officials or employees, provided such delegation is in writing and includes written procedures acceptable to the Board of Selectmen. Such delegation may only be to a town official or employee bonded in accordance with RSA 41-6. The Lincoln Town Treasurer hereby delegates deposit function authority to the Lincoln Town Clerk and/or tax collector and their respective deputy of the funds collected in the roll. These deposits shall be made on a weekly basis or daily whenever the receipts total $1,500 or more. In making these deposits, the Lincoln Town Clerk and/or tax collector and their respective deputy shall provide the Lincoln Town Treasurer with the deposit slip from the town's general fund financial institution, in addition to a detailed backup report documenting the receipt of monies comprising of the detail of the deposit made. This authority shall remain in effect until rescinded by written notice by the Lincoln Town Treasurer. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second form is Jonna, Kristen, and Janet discuss moving to a one-check system for motor vehicles rather than the
Thank you.
two-check, like most communities do.
Right, one in
Um,
the town of Lincoln, one to the state. Yeah.
Yes, so moving towards a one-check system where people only have to write one check.
Okay,
So in doing so, we feel the best way to track it, because we'll have to do a daily wire transfer out of the account to give the state their portion of the funds, is to open a new bank account. So anything that comes in for the one check for the state in and out, or for the town's motor vehicle funds, will be in one single bank account. So John doesn't have to try to navigate that through the
Gotcha.
general fund as
yeah,
well.
that
Makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
We think it's gonna be the easiest, at least at first, to be able to just clearly identify what is state funds versus what is town funds, and then Jonna will make a monthly transfer over or let it accumulate for whatever she needs to be. But we think, at least at first, to track.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
All right. There's a place for me to sign it and a place for Tamara to sign it.
There's only 2 signatures needed.
Need, oh, is that, okay.
Only
Oh,
two
oh, yeah.
can go to jail. and
Oh,
die.
so
That might be-
so you come off the hook.
Yep.
Okay, we'll be the last man standing.
I didn't want you to feel left out. All right,
Take that, Jane.
did you have anything you wanted to bring up? Oh. I am requesting and this is from Mercedes Mulligan. I'm requesting the unmerger of an involuntary lot merger. I'd like to have another dwelling unit erected on the rear lot. It appears at some point the rear lot was modified as the lot line is at an angle instead of straight across. Please advise as to what steps need to happen. Let me know if I need to have the land surveyed.
What is the address of the property?
I don't even know. It's 29 School Street.
School Street, yeah.
Right next to
Denise,
Denise
Mhm.
Hardy.
Oh,
Parody.
they found out that she was able to do it.
Is that the house that used to be Sam
Yes.
DeCourcy's?
That's
one that
right,
burnt?
Tammy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a choice. We have to let
We
them.
don't have a choice, we have to
Yeah.
let them. Carol did look into it, and Carol was able to identify that at one point it was 2 tracks, and now it's,
In here,
Okay.
it looks like it's one.
yeah.
See on the deed also, another, it describes one, and this is also another tract of land that
Right.
said Lincoln adjoining the above tract and bounded by is described
Mhm.
below, south 53 degrees, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So the deed is two lots.
Oh, the deed is, okay.
Two
It's on
tracks,
a
two
map,
tracks.
mapping. The only other one that still has one is the next one over, Barb Hooker.
And it looks like this was from 1946 was when it was written up as 2 lots.
Yeah, but there's no timeline, there's no
Nope.
anymore.
No.
It's, yeah.
Right, there was a deadline of, I think it was this
Yeah,
December, but they got rid of that.
And
Say-
we don't-
the state
got
law
We
rid
got
don't
rid of
need
that.
a motion, we don't need any discussion, we just have to approve it,
Right.
sign it, and say, yep, here you go.
There's nothing here to sign, but I think if we just do a motion
Motion.
and
Yeah,
then
motion
let,
to
let,
approve.
Oh, gotcha.
We'll let Carol know.
All right, I'll make the motion then.
to approve
The unmerging.
the unmerging of an involuntary lot merger for 29 School Street.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, do you have anything you want to?
No, sir.
No, I already did, I'm good.
Okay, then public participation.
Which is regular.
Oh, okay.
Is that?
Just on that date.
It's date night, yeah.
Date night.
Date night, no, the restaurant's closed now.
That's why you come here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Steve Dupree and my wife Nancy. We've been owners at the Link since 2003. We love the town very much. We're up here most of the summertime. We're just worried about the short-term rentals that have been of a lot of problems in the last, well, since we've been here. It seems like every year it gets worse. And I don't know if there's anything the town can do to cut back on short-term rentals, or is it, I mean, I know the individual associations are trying to do what they can do. Is there anything the town is doing, or is there anything the town can do to contain some of that?
The associations have far more legal power to restrict or control that than the town does.
Okay.
The position of the town thus far has been to, that we want to regulate it insofar as having contact people, because our problems have been with noise, parking, things like that. That we want to be able to contact someone at 2 a.m. without making 16 phone calls to find out who's in charge. So we just signed a contract with a company called Granicus that is going to help us find all of the short-term rentals that are in town and then contact them to register with us. We've had the registration now. This is the second year that we're into. People need to register and supply us with who's the owner, who's the contact person, what's the phone number we call at 2 a.m, that kind of stuff. And along with that, making them aware of rules regarding noise, using the solid waste facility, town ordinances, wild animal ordinance, etc. So that's as far as we've gone. Now, there are towns in New Hampshire that have tried to further restrict Airbnb or short-term rentals, and there's some court cases that have been settled in like in Conway, where the court ruled against the town for their restrictions, and now it's going to Superior Court or the next, whatever the next step is. It's being appealed. And our position has been to hold off and see where the courts end up, to see what's going to be legal and not legal as
Right.
far as any restrictions.
Let the other towns spend the legal money to figure it out.
Well, if it tabled or not, there was a House bill also to tie towns' hands where you can't, planning cannot. My House bill number was.
Yeah, it's still, so that's still currently active right
Is it?
now. Yep. Essentially, it would prohibit the town to regulate what zoning district the short-term rentals could be in. So we couldn't say it could only be in the village center, or it could only be in here. There's current legislation that the New Hampshire Municipal Association is trying to work on an amendment for, where it's kind of a middle ground, where the towns could allocate certain areas, but again, that's still very all up in the air at this point. There's
See, one of the things too, Steve, was that first and foremost should be the safety of the renters concerned, and the fact that some of the people that had these rental units on the different platforms were saying they could hold 12 people in 2 bedrooms. So they were putting them in attics that didn't have a second means of egress. They were putting in basements that didn't have a second means of egress. So it's a safety and fire issue. And Ron has inspected those when we've come across those situations. The company that we just approved a contract for indicated there might be 800 such rental units in this community. I think last year we had close to 400 rented. Was that right, Tammy?
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that. So we know that there are people that aren't registering, and those could be the people that are putting the guests most at risk. Somebody brought up the point, well, in residential zoning in Lincoln, you can't run a business. Is a rental a business? And, you know, that's one of the test cases I think that's going to court.
Right.
One of the other
That was
communities.
the ruling that
Right.
they are.
That was
it's a
the-
commercial.
that was the next question was, if somebody is not living here and they I just own it and just rent it out all year long,
Mhm.
is that considered a business? Or is that something that the state has to?
That's what's being appealed right now, that decision, because the courts decided that you can't restrict it. And so that's the appeal that the Conway is appealing now.
So the town itself cannot regulate what a business,
They
what a
cannot,
homeowner can do as a business in a residential area?
the argument was that the whole premise behind a short-term rental is the residential experience. So that the courts decided in the favor of that.
Right, that basically it's a
Right.
residential use,
It's, yeah,
even though it's
Yeah.
residential for one night or 2 nights, whatever.
it's still a
That
residential,
was-
And
exactly.
they're making money off it, so it's a
Oh.
business.
So that's, in lies the appeal. So we're gonna let them spend that legal money
Yeah.
to figure that out, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
But I think to your, and like OJ said, the homeowners association, if you band together,
Yeah,
hey, you can't do it if there's enough people that are disturbed by the rental issues.
absolutely.
Get the stories out there, why, and, you're waking at 2 o'clock in the morning by drunken parties and things like that. It's not right for the people that want to come up in peaceful enjoyment.
Exactly, and we're not gonna hesitate to call the police if we have to.
Yep.
If we're not getting any result from the renter, so-
Right. Right.
so. Well, thank you, because I know
Thank you.
it's really bringing in more and more people that don't care about the river. I mean, we go down there sometimes and spend our day there, we bring our lunch and everything, but you can tell there's people that don't care, they come down and do what they want and they leave, they don't,
And they leave everything with them.
yeah,
Mhm.
so. But it was very good to have the police officer come through every so often.
Yeah.
The last couple of summers.
I believe, last time we spoke that our chief intends to continue that this year as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Any other public? Jim?
Yeah, something on these short-term rentals and stuff like that. You said there's a number, well, last meeting, there was a number of them that almost every weekend, or at least every 2 or 3 weekends, the cops have to go to the same units time and time again. Is there any way that you can start charging the homeowners for the time that those police have to go there? If they start getting billed, stuff like that, they're probably gonna be a little more fussy as to who they rent that place to. They're not gonna rent it to 25 college kids. They're gonna rent it to a small family.
Right.
Don't
we have it that in the ordinance?
I think there is, I think there is something in the ordinance.
That we revoke their registration.
Correct.
And with this new company that we've hired,
And
then those.
I think there is a
short-term-
fine.
Jim, there is a fine in the ordinance.
Right.
Is there?
Yes, Ron, do you have, I'm looking
I don't
through.
have-
I don't have it on me, but here, you can look it up.
And part of the reason I think
On the website.
we went with Granicus is because they have claimed that if we find properties that aren't registered in the database, who are problem nuisance properties, then Granicus will then contact the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, and let them know this is a property that's not in compliance, this is a property, and essentially Airbnb and VRBO will shut them off from allowing them to use the site until they are in compliance. So I think that was part of the reason
Yeah.
why we chose Granicus, was because they had a little bit more pull, it seemed, with these big
Yeah.
platforms.
And if I remember correctly, if you have 3 incidences within a year, that the town can pull it permanent.
Right.
Sure,
I
yes.
think that's written down in the bylaws.
This is for registration. The owner of any unregistered short-term rental will be fined as follows.
That's unregistered. What about,
I think that's in the ordinance itself.
That's the
Yeah.
ordinance. That's the ordinance. There's nothing in here for if the police show up 100 times. Not in the ordinance anyway.
Jane,
Is
I
it
think you
on the
gave us a piece of
application?
paper
Hold on.
explaining
Yes, that was the ordinance that I had
Okay,
given
let
you.
me,
It did say
short-term
that
rental
3 times,
registration.
Police officer comes in 3 times within a year,
Yeah,
the
you
permit
know,
can be revoked by the
hold
town.
on, let me.
Look on the actual form,
Going on right now.
the registration form, Jim.
I've got that right here too. No. This is all information. It's not in the ordinance. With the fining in the ordinance is if you don't register. It doesn't say anything at all about. You know,
So what you are speaking about, Mr. Dupree, in the ordinance, the town has the right to revoke a permit for any short-term rental
Okay.
unit that becomes a nuisance. This action will require a minimum of 3 incidents within 1 year,
Thank you.
validated by the Lincoln PD or New Hampshire State Police, where the contact person was notified of problematic occupant actions.
Providing a register.
Oh,
Yeah,
and I love,
500,000.
there's the fine. I knew there was something there. Any unit owner found to be operating a short-term rental after revocation will be fined $1,000 per every 10-day period. Thank you, Jay.
There you go.
Yeah,
Wow.
awesome. And there's an appeal process.
That becomes more valuable as people
Thank you, Matt.
make a complaint with the police
Right.
so that it's on file. We need
Exactly.
3 of those on file with the police.
Right.
So if they're waking you up at 2 a.m. and the police never called, that counts as nothing.
Exactly,
So,
all right.
and I'm not just telling you, I'm actually
Yeah.
saying that to anyone who might be listening, that's, we're encouraging that. Obviously, we don't want nuisance calls.
No.
But if there's someone,
That's creating.
group that's a nuisance.
Call the police.
Right, we don't want that because it disrupts neighborhoods or unit owners, et cetera, so.
That's almost like baseball, 3 strikes you're out.
Exactly.
They ought to get a good fine the first, second, third time.
Progressive,
Then they're
yeah.
done. You know, that'll wake them up on the first time, so they won't get the second time. They won't be renting to a bunch of college kids that are gonna stay up all night drinking.
A lot of times they don't know who they're renting to.
Exactly.
I could call up and rent one for the week and they don't know that I'm renting my best friends. It was another one of those houses.
Very
One
cool.
of my, it was my best friend.
One of those cabins, the log cabins on the corner.
That's
Yeah.
all. The burden lies on them. They ought to make sure. they ought to
A
know.
lot of
Yeah,
them
most-
do. A
Most of
lot of
those
them do.
platforms allow the unit owner to
Converse.
look at somehow the potential renter,
They do.
whether it's through a profile or direct communication or whatever, they or their reviews, like on Airbnb, the renter gets reviewed just like the owner.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
The first, and the first time you rent is not easy. You really gotta convince somebody that you're not gonna destroy their property first, because after that, there's ratings.
There's reviews.
Yeah, reviews. So,
All right, do we have anything in non-public to discuss?
No.
I don't have anything.
Also,
oh, I do. I'm just kidding.
All right, do you want to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.